He told me he was proud of me, just before signing the papers that left me homeless. I started thinking about when it all began. The hallway was quiet except for the soft click of her heels against the hardwood floor. I heard her pause by the bedroom door. She didn't come in. Just stood there. Maybe to see if I was asleep, maybe to confirm that I was still breathing. I was. I didn't say anything. I stared at the ceiling, counting the slow rotations of the fan. 3 blades. 1 bulb out. It had been like that for months, and I'd stopped reminding her. I stopped reminding her of a lot of things. The house had grown colder since I got sick. Not physically. The heater still worked. The lights still came on. But something else had shut off, something harder to fix. I tried not to feel it, but the silence spoke louder than her clipped words or the forced kindness in her voice when she asked if I needed anything. "Do you need anything?" she had asked that morning, standing in the doorway with her coat already on, keys in hand. I wanted to say, "I need you to sit down. I need you to look at me like you used to. I need to not feel like a ghost in my own home." But instead, I said, "No, I'm fine." She nodded, didn't meet my eyes, and left without saying goodbye. I used to work 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Construction. Heavy, exhausting, honest. I never thought I'd miss the noise, the dust, the sore muscles, but I did. Every minute I spent lying in that bed was a minute I wasn't out there being useful, being someone. After the accident, I spent weeks in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines. Doctors used words like degenerative, irreversible, chronic. They spoke like mechanics diagnosing a totaled engine. When I came home, it was supposed to be a victory. I made it through. But nothing felt victorious. My body didn't work like it used to. My legs could carry me, but only short distances. My back screamed with every step. Some days I couldn't even sit without pain clawing up my spine. I filed for disability. The paperwork took months. The approval came with a letter that read more like a condolence. And she changed. It wasn't sudden. It was in the little things. The way she stopped laughing at my jokes. The way she spoke about work like it was the only thing that mattered. She started coming home later, stopped kissing me goodnight. Then she moved to the guest room. At first, I thought it was stress. Then I realized it was me. I was the stress. I was the burden. That night, I heard her whisper on the phone, "I can't do this much longer." And I knew she wasn't talking about her job. The next morning, she made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, black coffee, just like I used to like it. I watched her from the couch as she moved through the kitchen, precise and quiet, like someone performing a duty. No music, no humming, just the scrape of the spatula on the pan. She didn't sit down, just placed the plate in front of me and turned away. "You should eat before it gets cold," she said. I nodded. "Thanks." But she was already walking upstairs, phone in hand, thumb scrolling. Probably an email, probably someone more important than me. I didn't touch the food. I started noticing how little space I took up. My medicine sat in a shoebox in the laundry room. My clothes were folded in a drawer she never opened. The bedroom we once shared now held only her side of the bed, untouched, neatly made, like a display in a showroom. My things were slowly disappearing, as if the house was erasing me. Her mother came over more often, loud voice, cold eyes. Every time she looked at me, I felt like I was shrinking. "Still no improvement?" she asked once, arms crossed. "It's not that simple," I said, trying to stay calm. "The condition fluctuates. Some days you lie around and wait for someone else to fix your life," she snapped. I looked at my wife. She didn't defend me, just stared at her phone. That night I asked her why she didn't speak up. She shrugged. "She's worried. That's how she is." "But you agree with her?" Silence. She left the room without answering. The silence became heavier. It followed me from room to room. I caught them whispering once, her and her mother, in the hallway. I heard the words lawyer and options. My name wasn't mentioned, but I didn't have to hear it to know. I started checking her laptop when she wasn't home. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof? A reason? One night I found an email draft. It wasn't sent, but it was there. I can't keep living like this. He's not the man I married. I feel like I'm suffocating. I sat back in my chair, the screen glowing in the dark, her words echoing louder than any scream. Not the man she married. As if I'd chosen this. 3 years ago. Summer. We were in the backyard, building a garden box. She had dirt on her nose, laughing as she handed me nails. I remember her saying, "Even if everything falls apart one day, promise me we'll keep building things together." I promised. Now she won't even look me in the eye. She brought home a pamphlet one evening, slid it across the table like a menu. "Rehabilitation center," she said. "They specialize in your condition. 3 months. Full program." I stared at the paper. Where is this coming from? "You need help, and we need space. I think we both need time to think." "You mean you need time," I said. She didn't deny it. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again. The fan was still broken. The shadows looked like cracks in the paint. Or maybe they were real now. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. And I started wondering, when did she stop seeing me as a person? I waited a week before calling the center. Not because I wanted to go, but because I wanted to know if it was real, or just another excuse she'd invented to move me out. The woman on the phone was kind, too kind. She spoke in rehearsed empathy, explaining the program, the facilities, the schedule. It sounded decent. A room with a window, meals, therapy, even a pool. And yet, every word felt like an eviction notice dressed in concern. When I told my wife I'd called, she nodded like I'd passed a test she hadn't told me about. "That's good. I think it'll help." She didn't ask what they said. She didn't ask how I felt. I started paying closer attention, watching her, noticing how her mood changed around certain calls, how she always stepped outside to take them. She started dressing better, not just tidy, deliberate, new shoes, lipstick, the kind she wore when we were dating. One morning, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while rushing out. It buzzed twice. I saw the name, Daniel, HR. My stomach dropped. It wasn't the name. It was the way it was saved. I opened the thread. The messages were clean, professional, but I knew her tone. I knew when she was smiling while typing. I scrolled further. Voice notes. Laughter. Not dirty. Not yet. But intimate in a way we hadn't been in months. That night I asked, "Who's Daniel?" She didn't flinch. "Coworker." "You talk to him a lot." "He's my manager." You laugh at his voice notes. She looked at me then. First time in days. "Are you checking my phone now?" I didn't answer. She scoffed. "Unbelievable. You sit around all day and now you're playing detective?" I should have stopped. Should have apologized. But something in me snapped. Better than playing wife while planning your escape. Her face hardened. "You think I planned this? You think I wanted you to get sick?" I stood, too fast. Pain shot down my back, grounding me. "You didn't plan it, but you sure as hell used it." She didn't respond, just left the room, slammed the door. I needed proof. Not to confront her, not yet, but to remind myself I wasn't imagining things. I called an old friend, Luis. He used to work with me before the accident. "Still got that contact at the rehab center?" I asked. He paused. "You really going?" "Just checking." He texted me a number, not the front desk, someone internal. I called, asked simple questions, then slipped in one more. "Who referred me?" There was a pause on the line. Says here, your wife and her mother. Did they say why? Another pause. They mentioned concerns about your mental state, said you were becoming unstable. I didn't speak. The silence stretched. Sir, are you okay? I hung up. Flashback. After my father died, I remember my mother sitting at the edge of the bed, holding his boots. She didn't cry, just held them. Like maybe if she touched them long enough, he'd come back. I used to think that was grief. Now I understood. It was betrayal, too. He'd been sick, yes. But he'd left her with nothing. No plan, no warning. And she'd had to carry all that weight alone. I thought I was different. I thought I was better. I waited until she came home. I was calm. Too calm. I'm not going. She looked up from her bag. What? The center. I'm not going. Her jaw clenched. We agreed it was for the best. Number you decided. You and your mother. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. And if I go, you'll use it to file. Say I'm unstable, unfit. You'll walk away clean. She froze. That was my proof, right there, in her silence. And in that moment, I knew. She'd been preparing my exit for a long time. The letter came 2 days later. Plain white envelope. No return address. I opened it with shaking hands. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Petition for dissolution of marriage. No note, no explanation. Just the cold, printed outline of what my life was about to become. Divided assets, separate residences, her name first, mine second. I stared at the signature line. Blank. Like a gun with the safety off, waiting to fire. I didn't confront her that night. She was late again, blaming work. I watched her set down her purse, open the fridge, take out the wine. She didn't see the envelope on the table. When she did, she froze. I told the lawyer to send that to my email, she said. That's what bothers you? The delivery method? She poured the wine. No eye contact. Just said, this doesn't have to be ugly. I laughed, short, hollow. It already is. She went upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the wine glass she left half full. Lipstick on the rim, a shade I didn't recognize. Next day, her mother came over again. No knock, just the shrill sound of the door opening. I didn't move from the couch. She walked in like she owned the place. Looked at me like I was furniture that had outlived its use. You need to sign, she said, holding a pen. I looked at her. Really looked. I saw the lines around her mouth from years of bitterness, the way her shoulders stayed tense even while standing still. You've wanted this since the beginning, I said. She didn't deny it. She's worked too hard for her life to revolve around this. She gestured at me, my cane leaning against the wall, the stack of medical bills, the silence. She loved me, I said quietly. She pitied you. There's a difference. That one landed. Deep. I didn't answer, just let her words settle like dust. That night, I packed a bag. Not because I agreed, but because I knew staying meant more of this, more cruelty dressed as concern. She came home while I was folding my last pair of jeans. Where are you going? She asked, voice tight. Somewhere that doesn't look at me like I'm a mistake. She looked tired, not sad, just done. There's a motel near the bus station, she said. I'll cover the first week. I paused. You had this ready. She didn't deny it. I left without saying goodbye. The motel smelled like bleach and old air. My room had one flickering lamp and a bed that groaned when I sat down. But it was mine. For a few days, at least. I started calling clinics, asking about low-cost pain treatment. Most hung up fast. One woman stayed on the line, said they had a program, said I'd have to work part-time cleaning to qualify. I said yes before she finished the sentence. 2 weeks passed. Then I got the second letter. Reevaluation of disability status. The wording was precise. Concerns have been raised regarding the legitimacy of your condition and your current living circumstances. My hands shook. I knew exactly where those concerns came from. I tried calling my wife, straight to voicemail. I called the lawyer on the petition. He was polite, detached, said she had the right to report if she believed I was exaggerating for financial benefit. I hung up mid-sentence. Flashback. The night after my surgery, she sat beside me in the hospital, held my hand, whispered, "No matter what this changes, it doesn't change us." I believed her. I would have bet my life on it. Now I stood in a motel bathroom staring at a man I barely recognized. Gaunt face, eyes hollow, body aching like it was decades older than it was. They wanted me gone. So I gave them what they wanted. I signed the divorce papers, dropped them in the mailbox across the street. Then I lay down, lights off, and listened to the silence swallow me whole. I started working nights at a distribution center on the edge of town. Graveyard shift, concrete floors, fluorescent lights that hummed like dying bees. I wore a brace under my shirt and took painkillers like breath mints. Every hour was a war between my body and the demand to keep moving. I didn't tell anyone about the disability reevaluation. I knew how it looked. Man walks, man lifts, man earns. Therefore, man must be fine. But I wasn't fine. I was surviving, and every box I stacked felt like a countdown to something worse. The supervisor didn't ask questions, just handed me a vest and said, "Clock in, or don't." So I clocked in. On breaks, I sat alone behind the loading bay, watching rats scurry between dumpsters. Sometimes I pressed a hand to my side just to check if the pain was still real. It always was. One night, I saw a guy from my old crew, Miguel. He didn't recognize me at first. "Damn," he said finally. "You look different. Life changes you." "No shit." He offered me a smoke. I shook my head. "What happened, man? Last I heard you were on medical. Thought you were set." I almost laughed. "I was set until my wife decided I was too heavy to carry." He winced. "Sorry, man." I shrugged. "She said I stopped being the man she married." Miguel looked away. That's the kind of thing they say when they're already gone. Later that week, I got a call from my mother. She'd heard about the divorce from my ex. "She said you wanted it," my mother said, voice sharp. I nearly dropped the phone. "What?" "She said you asked for it, that you couldn't handle the pressure." I stared at the stained motel ceiling. "She told you that?" "She also said you were exaggerating your symptoms, that you were working under the table while claiming benefits." It hit harder than the pain, harder than the rejection. This wasn't just abandonment. This was assassination. "She's lying." "You sure?" my mother said. Quiet now. I sat up. "You think I faked this?" "I think people change under pressure." So that was it. She didn't hang up, but she didn't say goodbye either. I stopped calling anyone after that. There was no one left to explain myself to. One morning after my shift, I limped into the clinic and asked for the therapist. "I'm not here for peace," I told her. "I'm here to stay sane enough not to snap." She nodded. Didn't write anything down. "I used to think pain made you noble," I said. "Now I think it just makes you invisible." She finally spoke. "Do you want to stop being invisible?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Our wedding, rainstorm, mud on her dress. We laughed, soaked, spinning under the tent lights. I remember thinking, this woman will fight through anything with me. Turns out, she'd just never been tested. Now I was the test, and she failed. 2 weeks later, the reevaluation notice came back. Denied. Evidence of employment inconsistent with claimed disability level. I stared at the letter like it might catch fire in my hands. This was her final gift. She didn't just leave me. She erased the only thing keeping me afloat. My benefits were gone, no appeals allowed for 12 months. That night, I sat in my car behind the warehouse, engine off, window cracked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed, long, shallow, controlled. And for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt focused. If they wanted me gone, forgotten, erased, then I'd make damn sure they remembered what they threw away. I started watching her online, not obsessively, surgically. Quiet, precise, like studying a blueprint. She'd gone public with her promotion, new position, new company, different city, new last name. She changed it back to her maiden name. Every post was curated, polished photos, conference panels, brunches with hashtags like number resilience and number self-worth. No mention of me, no trace. Like I'd been a hiccup in her personal branding journey. But one detail stood out. She was consulting for a medical nonprofit, Rest Fund Initiative, the same name listed on my disability rejection letter. That wasn't coincidence. She'd stepped over me to climb higher and built part of her platform on the image of escaping a toxic, dependent partner. I created a burner account, nothing suspicious, just enough to follow without alerting. Through that, I found the organization's site, board of directors, staff bios, media links. Her face was everywhere. She was giving talks about navigating life transitions and survivor narratives. Her keynote had a quote, "Sometimes to protect your future, you have to walk away from what weighs you down." I didn't feel anger. I felt strategy forming. Luis was the first person I told. He listened without blinking, smoking slow behind the auto shop where he now worked. "She's exploiting your story?" he asked. "She's repackaging it." He blew smoke. "You want to burn her?" "No," I said. "I want to expose her, quietly." He grinned. "Then let's get to work." We started small. Luis helped me trace a paper trail, job applications, dates of employment, health records. I pulled my clinic visit logs. We documented every shift I'd taken, every rejected claim, every piece of communication from her or her lawyer. Then came the interviews. The woman at the rehab center remembered her mother, the wording they used, emotional instability, inability to self-manage. She agreed to sign a written statement. The social worker I'd met at the pain clinic wrote a character affidavit. She'd seen me limping into every session, documented every flare-up. I didn't plan to sue, I planned to submit. To her employer, to her board, to the press. But first, one test. We found a local conference where she was scheduled to speak. Topic: Healing Forward, Personal Responsibility After Trauma. It was open to the public. Luis came with me. We wore masks, caps, kept to the back row. She looked smaller in person, not physically, just thinner. Like all the polishing had erased parts of her that used to be real. Her voice was practiced, words smooth, but I caught the cracks between lines. She used a story. A close relationship where one partner's illness becomes a tool of manipulation. We must know when compassion becomes captivity. The audience nodded. She was talking about me. Luis leaned over. "Time." "Not yet," I whispered. After the panel, we waited. When the crowd thinned, I stepped into her line. She froze when she saw me, just for a second, but enough. I smiled, not kindly, not cruelly. "Hello again." She glanced at the staffer beside her. "This isn't the place." "No," I said, "but it will be the last time I stay silent." She went pale. I handed her a USB. Everything. Every lie. Every signature. Every witness. "I'm giving you 48 hours to resign from the board and issue a correction, or this goes wide." She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just held the drive in her hand like it was a grenade. I walked away, didn't look back. Outside, Luis grinned. That felt surgical. It wasn't revenge, I said. It was correction. And for the first time, I stood without pain. She issued a statement the next morning. Not on her main page, buried in the nonprofit's website under Updates. 3 paragraphs. Cold, careful language. Due to personal matters and recent misunderstandings, I have chosen to step down from my role with Rest Fund Initiative, effective immediately. No mention of me. No apology. But her name vanished from every part of their platform within hours. I sent the documents anyway, not to bury her, but to make sure she couldn't rewrite the story again. One email to a mid-tier blog that covered nonprofit ethics, another to a freelance journalist who'd once written about disability fraud. I gave him the real fraud to chew on. Then I let it go, and I disappeared. 3 months later, I was working at a small electronics recycling plant. Less lifting, more sorting. They didn't ask about my past, and I didn't offer it. I slept in a rented room above a garage, ate quiet meals, watched the seasons change from a small square window. I started walking again, not far, not fast, but enough. One afternoon, I saw her name trend, not viral, just a ripple. Blog post titled, "The Myth of the Martyr Spouse, When Narratives Go Too Far." They'd done the digging, called sources. One quote stuck with me. He never needed saving. He just needed space to heal. Her face was in the article, frozen mid-sentence, mid-lie. The comments weren't cruel, just real. People saying they saw it before, that her story always felt too neat, that healing doesn't come at the expense of someone else's ruin. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a quiet closing. A month later, she emailed me. Just one line. "I hope someday you'll understand why I did what I did." I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "I do. That's why I'll never reply again." And I hit send. Last week, I passed by a bookstore downtown. In the window, a flyer for a new talk series, Stories That Heal. I didn't go inside. I just stood there a moment, watching strangers move past, holding coffee, laughing, rushing somewhere. I didn't envy them. I didn't pity them. I just stood, whole, invisible, untouched. Because the worst had already happened. And I was still here. Still walking. Still real. It was raining. I saw her across the street, standing under the awning of a cafe, phone in hand, shoulders tight. Same coat, same expression. She didn't see me. But I watched her for a long moment, then turned away and kept walking.